go ahead and open it up to some of our panelists. They're going to give a little bit of a, I'm getting weird messages from Zoom right now. Our panelists are going to give a little bit of an introduction to their work with their organizations and also the ecosystem. And the way we really structured this is to really kind of hone in on the idea of what is an ecosystem? What does the next evolution of our ecosystem look like for the Tulsa region? So I think the first person that's going to be up to speak really needs no real introduction. She's been with us for many, many years, but now actually really has the role of working with ecosystems at large beyond Tulsa. So she is now a part of TIES and also with the national ecosystem. So she's working globally and can give us some perspective of, where Tulsa is anchored, across the world, which hopefully might surprise you guys because apparently we're kind of a big deal. So I think that's definitely something for everybody on this call to give yourselves a good pat on the back about, because Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance is known internationally, which is really, really exciting. And, the woman I haven't named yet, but I know you need no introduction to, Miss Xan Black, is helping to really kind of lead that work globally and can give us a little bit of perspective of, what is an ecosystem itself. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Xan.
Yay, thank you, Emily. Thank you for that introduction. When I was in your shoes, I used to think, they say that like we're all that in a bag of chips, but I was just like, they just say that, they say that to all the girls, kind of is how I felt about it. But now that I'm on this side, I can assure you that it's actually true. Like when we talk to Greenland or we talk to Sweden or we're talking to Israel, like there's the Tulsa model, and it's just said just that plainly. So you are an exemplar, and it's absolutely because of all the people on this call. It is the community. The secret sauce in Tulsa is that we actually collaborate, and not every place does that. So huge, huge kudos to everyone on this Zoom. Let me see if I can figure out how to make this prettier for you, and I'll get started on this. So I know, especially in the beginning, sometimes you wonder what in the world is an ecosystem, right? We throw that term around. Sometimes I think maybe we should have just said community. It's like that. It's give and take, it's relationships, it's all kinds of different relationships. One of my very favorite things that ever happened was I met with Tulsa Opera, and they're like, we'd like to be math mentors. And that blew my mind. Just like, can you imagine being mentored in math by Tulsa Opera? So whatever is the craziest, most out of the box idea is only going to strengthen the ecosystem. And I think Tulsa does a whale of a job with this. So there's me, who cares? So STEM, as you might guess, is for all. And I think that's something that Tulsa really has burning in their chest, is like, it is for all. We can do for a few without any work, right? For a few has been going on forever, but I'm really proud of TRSA that you're fighting for it to be for all, and that you mean that, and that it's aligned with workforce and economic growth. That's just how serious it is. So here's our picture of an ecosystem. Sometimes for those who are like, what in the world is an ecosystem? It's just really simply all the partners in a community stacking hands saying, how can we create more opportunities for the student who is at the center of all this? So every single sector that you might think of is there and needs to be there. It's not like, oh, let's be nice and invite them. No, it is mission critical. We won't win this fight without everyone being at the table. So if you look around, you see home, we see families, schools, higher ed, business, philanthropy, government. Every single kind of partner, every single sector needs to be robustly represented in this thing. So that's an ecosystem. Here are what we consider to be the pillars of a thriving ecosystem. None of us are perfect, not even close, but you're super close, okay? So first of all, partnerships. If we talk to somebody who wants to be an ecosystem, they're like, we've got it all tied up. Everything is located at the University of Alabama or whatever. It's like, wow, that's good. What would be better is if you also were friends with the Department of Commerce and you're like, that. So not only partnerships, not only a ton of them, but a ton of them that are very diverse is extremely important to the health of an ecosystem. Second one is establish systems for sustainability. So if it's a one-off, if it's like, yeah, we did this amazing thing, 100,000 people came and we don't have any idea how we'll ever do it again, also not a healthy ecosystem, right? How are you going to sustain this? And I think Levi and Emily have done a great job of baking in sustainability into this new strategic plan, so that, to Levi's point, you know, we want TRSA to be here 100 years from now. Like, we want it to last forever. So that has to be very intentional. And I appreciate the work Levi's leading in that. Aligning inside of school and outside of school, super important, right? Like, it's cool if you're doing robotics or you're doing drones or whatever outside of school. Like, do the kids see any connection whatsoever between that and physics, or that and calculus? Like, what a beautiful world it could be if we made that explicit, if it wasn't a secret how those are connected. Measurement, I know TRSA has been involved with this from the get-go, and I applaud you for that. Like, we can only say the kids really love it so many times, right? Like, the kids also love hula hoops and chocolate milk, so that's not enough. And so TRSA from the beginning has been dead serious about measurement, working with Harvard Pear, working with Caliper, every way that we can measure, so that not just we have a cool report to show funders, so that we can change what we do. Like, we have to, you know, I say, like, the only one who's a bigger fool than the one who doesn't ask the question is the one who asks the question and doesn't pay attention to the answer. Like, we have to ask the question, how is this working? And then we have to pay attention to the answer and change, be willing to change everything. There are no sacred cows. Final one is workforce. Like, is what we're doing in STEM connected to local workforce? Because if it's not, like, there's a disconnect, and an important one that we need to be about connecting. Here's some ways that Caliper measures the health of an ecosystem. It looks at, Harvard Pear looks at more like, how are the programs impacting students? What do the teachers say? La, la, la. So it's at the program level. Caliper looks at the health of an ecosystem. So what happens is, in the beginning, it's at the informed stage. Like Levi says, you do this, you do this, you do this. The next meeting, I'll tell you what you do next. Like, not so ecosystem-y, right? Like, here's your task list, go and make it so. That's not an ecosystem. Super great. All the way at the other end is empowerment, where all of you, which is very true of all of you, you all feel completely empowered to do things. You feel like you do have a voice, and that's what this advisory council is about. It's not lipstick, it's not lip service, it's actual partnership, actual collaboration. And so there's that whole continuum, and it changes from year to year, day to day, person to person, but we all want to keep climbing up that ladder. So here's where the ecosystems are. There are 100 now. Most, of course, are in the United States, but we also have them in Kenya, Israel, Mexico, and Canada, and more international, as well as national ones are knocking at the door as we speak. So snapshots from ecosystem, force multiplication. That's how I think of it. You know, if you have that super cool teacher and they're just amazing, and that's the only one in your life pushing you on STEM, that's a single point of failure, which in the engineering world is not ever a good thing, right? But if we can build this network where not only is it that teacher, but it's your robotics coach, it's the camp you went to, like, more and more, like, building up this whole ecosystem, this whole network of support for these kids is what's gonna, you know, carry the water. And so some of my favorite stories from ecosystems, like STEM NOLA, how cool is that? Calvin Mackey, you know, had kids building STEM Mardi Gras floats. Like, those kids will never in their entire lives forget building that float. That's a relevant, actual STEM thing that they did. Arizona's doing chief science officer, so they have kids. Imagine being in the 7th grade and being designated chief science officer for your middle school. Like, game changer, right? Or a Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance. See, you're in here. What inspires you? That's all Emily Mortimer right there. Like, imagine being an elementary student, and instead of memorizing a definition for color, having heard from the zoo about how predators use color, having heard from the Tulsa Symphony how musicians use color, and then gone to Gilcrease and seen how color is used in painting. Like, you would have such a profound understanding of color over memorizing a definition. So just thinking about all these partners on any topic, right? That's a really cool ecosystem way to teach kids. And I think that's awesome. And Emily did that. So growing towards sustainability, this is what's happening at the national and international level. We've just launched a leadership coordinating council, LC2, because we're cool like that. And it's ecosystem leaders from across the country, in fact, around the world. There are representatives from all of our international ecosystems as well. Levi Patrick is one of them, and they are actually leading this 100 ecosystem thing that's going. So big props, huge props to Levi, because I'm sure he had one or two other things to do, but he said yes to that leadership position, and we really appreciate that. We also have a strategic advisory council, which is made up of I never put just in front of industry, in front of its industry partners who are serious as can be about how can we better support these 100 STEM ecosystems. So that's their work. And then ties is the backbone. We like make the trains run on time is, you know, allegedly what we do, communication, research to support the great work that y'all are doing in the ecosystems. There's the link to all of the ecosystems. So if you're like, wait a second, I want to know more about Calvin Mackey, you can look him up on here. All of the ecosystems have a blurb with contact information, and there's my contact information if anyone should have any questions of me. Thank you so much for letting me kick this thing off.